right.
Hey, I'm Ron from Ron's World Guitars, and this is the Rockstar Paint Class. Hey guys, this is Ron from Rockstar Paint Class. Welcome. Today we're going to be painting the legendary John Lennon. All right, this painting I like to call Imagine. So if this is your first time painting with us, welcome. If it's there more than one time painting with us, welcome back. So a couple things I just want to go over. In the kit that you have purchased already for this portrait, you've got the canvas, the pre-positioned canvas that we've prepared for you, as well as your paints. You've got one of these little palettes. Okay, what I've done is I've actually put the paint, loaded the paint on the palette already. You've got the brushes, a bunch of brushes. I'll tell you which brushes I'm using at what time. Primarily, I'm going to use this heavy brush, but if you feel more comfortable using one of the finer brushes, feel free by all means. You've got your paints, the Alpha 6 paints, awesome paint. I hope you enjoy them. What you're also going to need is a paper towel and a little cup of water to rinse the brushes and to clean them as we go. And again, I'll take you through all of that. So you've seen by now the portrait that we're going to paint. Okay, so we're gonna try to get that as close to that painting there as possible. Obviously, that's a lot bigger than the one we're going to be painting, so some of the detail might be a little harder to capture. So, and again, I'll take you through all this. It's a little expressionistic, and I'd like to keep it that way, but this is your painting. If you want to get heavier on the detail, by all means, feel free to do that. Again, I'll try to keep it as close to that as possible in the time frame we have. And at the end, I'd love for you guys to share your paintings with us at Rockstar Paint Class. We have a Facebook group, Rockstar Paint Class, as well as on Instagram, rockstarpaintclass.com, and tag us at Rockstar Paint Class. Okay, so with that said, let's begin. So what I've done is I'm using my the heaviest brush we have. We'll call it the wedge brush. All right, and again, I've got my paint on the canvas. What I like to do is start with my lighter colors, all right, and work my way to the darker colors, and then I can go back and adjust as I see fit. So with the yellow, lightest color we have, what I want to do now is I'm going to start blocking this in, but I want you to pay attention to the highlights on his face, all right? One of the most important things you're going to do when painting a portrait is highlights or light and shadow. Okay, everything else can almost fall off if you wanted to, but as long as you get the highlights and the shadows, you're going to be able to make that painting look like who you want it to look like, in this case, John Lennon. So one of the things you'll notice in the center of the painting here, if you even reference this, we've got a light white spot in the middle, down the bridge of his nose, and then this area down here. So it's almost the center of his face is the highlighted areas. And what I want to do is I want to keep that white. I'll keep it the white of the canvas. If I want to later, I mean, we do have white paint. I can go back in and add that. But for the time being, let's try to keep that as white as possible. All right, so a little bit of yellow, and I don't use a lot of paint to start with, all right? I want to keep that as light as humanly possible, and I'm going to scratch that paint into that canvas, all right? Just push it around. Get it nice and flat, all right? Not a lot of paint. Like I said, don't want it to bunch up or glob up on you, all right? It'll dry faster if it's thinner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right around that hairline at the top of his head here, all right? And I'm going to add that yellow in. One of the other things you'll notice is I'm not afraid to go on top of the blacks, all right? I'd rather get color on that canvas than leave a white edge between the black and my color. So I can go back at the end and I can clean that up with my blacks or whatever color I want to, and that's what we will do. So I don't mind getting that paint on top of that black. All right, so you'll see what I did is I went right around that hairline, okay, where his hair touches his forehead. We painted all of that yellow. All right, I'll come down here a little bit to where that little black line there, that's a strip of hair, so we'll put a little bit of a yellow shadow behind that as well. All right, we covered that. And then I want to, right down here between the eyes, let's add a little bit of yellow. All right, you'll notice what I'm doing also is I'm not making a real fine straight line. All right, I'm letting that brush kind of fall on that canvas, and it gives me a little bit of a jagged edge. And that's what I want, all right? I'm going to leave that white there like that. All right, we'll continue right down here the ridge of his nose. All right, so give yourself a little bit of yellow against that black. Again, we're going to leave that white in the middle. All right, let's take that yellow and curl it around the bottom. Okay. All right, what I want to do now is I want to come over here where the corner of his mouth is. All right, and I'm going to create that little arch where that shadow would be in his cheek. So give yourself a little line like that in yellow, and again, nice and light. Don't get real heavy with it. All right, we'll go a little thicker on the bottom, and then you can hear my brush almost just pushing that color into the canvas. That's exactly what I want to do. That's how I'm spreading that paint. All right, and as the paint goes off the brush, it'll give me that little bit of that feathered look. All right, you can see that little line right there almost. It doesn't actually get very hard. So I want to keep that like that. All right, and I'll bring this yellow up along the side of his face like this. All right, we smooth it out, make sure it's nice and flat. And make sure it touches the black, all right, so you don't leave any white between your color and the black. All right, we'll get a little more yellow, and let's come underneath this lip here. All right. All right, we're going to make a shadow underneath his bottom lip. All right, so I'll make that in yellow, and I'll take some yellow and I'll bring that around here as well, right around his chin. All right, and I actually can hear, if I use this, hear the scratching noise. I actually use the thickness of the brush, the side of the brush. All right, and I'm pushing that color in. You don't be so concerned about using the very sharp edge of the brush. We will use that when we want to get a finer line, but there's no reason we can't use the width of that brush to get ourselves a fatter edge along where we want it. All right, so let's have something like that. All right, we'll add a little bit of yellow, I think, or maybe up here in this eye, this area up here. Put a little underneath. Let's put a little in that eye as well. All right, you've got a nice little blend of yellow working your way around that canvas. The other thing we're going to notice as we're doing this is you don't want to leave one color isolated, okay? We're going to basically move that color around. That just creates, nicer composition for us. So that yellow moving all around that face it creates a nicer feel. So that's how we want that to look for the time being. All right. So what I'm going to do now is, there's no real need if you're using the next color, which is going to be orange, okay? Orange and yellow are complements. So there's no reason to actually clean that brush off. So I just wipe the extra paint off the bristles, and then I can dip that in the orange. All right, and if there's still a little yellow on that brush, that's not a big deal. So with the orange, I'm going to go on top the yellow, all right, and I'm going to use it to create a heavier shadow next to the black. All right, I'm not really getting technical with this. All I want to do is dab that color into those areas. All right, so wherever along the edges there, that's going to darken up my shadows so I can create some separation between that black and that yellow. All right, I'll just smear that right around. All right, so run yourself that orange, almost like that little halo of orange, right around where that black hairline is. All right, and once you do that, we're going to creep on up into that hair. All right, so let's get some of that orange up into where that white area is, where I've left that blank space for you. Bring that up into his hair. And again, let's not worry about getting it on the black. We're going to go back and we're going to fix that afterwards. But let's bring some of that orange up into the black, right on top of the black. All right, and that'll pretty that up for us a bit. All right, you can see really random. I just want some of that color up in that black area. And I'll keep that centered to that area right there for the time being. All right, let's get some orange over top of that eyelid, that little white area there. I want that to be orange. All right, and again, like we did with the yellow, we're going to move that orange around that canvas. All right, I'm going to put a little bit over here down that nose. All right, and then what I want to do is I'm going to make an orange nostril over here. All right, now you'll notice you don't have that on the canvas, so we're going to add it. All right, so let's just make that shape. All right, almost like a little oblong circle. And the orange isn't going to be really, really opaque, which means it's not going to be very thick. And that's fine. We don't want it to be. All right, but let's add that little nostril over there off the side of his nose. We can come back and we can adjust that later if we want. All right, I'm going to throw some orange down here into that yellow on top of that black. All right, don't cover all your yellow. All right, like we said before, we're just going to come around and we're going to darken up that area where that black met that yellow, and we're going to give it a little bit of an edge. All right, we'll bring that orange all the way around here. A little fatter on the cheeks, right? He's got some little shadow on his cheeks, so we want to bring that out. Okay, and if you want the orange to be a little heavier, once it dries, you go back over top of it. That'll make it a little more opaque. So a couple of the areas I want to make a little more stronger in color. All right, so you can see it's starting to take shape already. Okay, you can see if you reference our larger picture here, that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with that perimeter, we're going to build that color, and then we're going to bring it in more towards the center of his face. All right, so we're getting that almost that structure now of Lennon's face. So before I go on to the next color, I'm going to go heavy up that little nostril area we did there. All right, we can go back, once that dries, we can go back and hit that later. Okay? All right, so we're pretty much done so far, or for the time being, with our orange. All right, like I said before, we're going to keep with the lighter colors as we get, and then go to the darker ones. So there's no real reason to clean that brush off, unless for some reason you've got a lot of paint on there, you want to rinse it off. You can just, it's not going to hurt anything. All right, just get that paint off there. I'm just drying it off in the paper towel. All right, and the next color I want to go to is this pink. All right, so let's get a little bit of pink on that brush, all right? And you'll see what I'm doing is I'm dabbing any excess off. I don't want a lot of paint on there. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to sketch this little shape on his cheek. All right, a little bit of an arc here. And then I'll come straight down like that. All right, so give yourself that little almost backwards number 7 there in pink. All right, and then let's fill that in. Not a lot of paint like we did with the other colors. All right, just get enough on there to cover all the white of that canvas. All right, and I'll go right over top of that yellow and blend it into the orange. All right, just push that pink into that orange. All right, bring it right up there. All right, you've got something that looks like that. Okay, a little more paint. I'm going to come over to the corner of his lip here, or his mouth. All right, and I'm on top of the yellow, and I want to make this little hook here. All right, it'll give us a little bit of a shadow in that corner of his mouth. All right, and then I want to fatten this area up. This is a little bit of a shadow on Lennon's face. All right, and I want to make sure I capture it. All right, bring it on down to the chin. So you see what we've done? We've actually left that highlight in the center of his chin here. All right, we want to leave that white. So I've got a little bit of a curve, and I've joined the color there on the bottom. Okay, so you've got that little hook here, and you left that little area there, all right, for the center of his chin is white. All right, I'm going to grab a little more pink on there. And what I want to do is I'm going to come inside that eyeglass, and I'll make this little shape here. Now you notice what I did is I've left a little bit of a white line, all right, on top of that black line. If you don't do that, we can hit it with white paint later. But I also want to indicate where the rim, the highlight of that eyeglass is. All right, I'm going to put this little scratch of a shape over here inside that. And then I'm going to come underneath it, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give myself a little bit of pink under there. All right, so follow that shape right around like that. Okay? Let's go over to here where we added some orange over the top of that eye. I'm going to put some pink over there. All right, on top of the black, next to the orange. All right, I'll put a little pink down here as well on top of that orange. Again, like we said earlier, I'm just moving some color around. All right, we don't want to have pink in just one area. All right, let's make sure our pink is pretty solid as well. All right, I'll put a little bit up here too. Okay, you can see you're just moving the color around, all right? If it was just in one area, that looks funny. So we want to get to get that portrait look, we want to keep moving that color around. All right, and we'll do that with as we go through, we'll do that with every color we have. Okay. All right, next what I want to do is I'm going to go to blue. So when I do the blue now, it's a completely different color palette. So let's rinse that brush off. All right, and what I'll do is I'll just put some water on that, and I'll just literally dab the color into my paper towel, and then just dry the brush. All right, you can wipe it on the palm of your hand. If the brush is dry, no color comes off, you're good to go. All right, what I'll do is I'll come over to this light blue color. All right, let's start blocking some of this area in. So this white area here, that's going to be light blue. So let's go ahead and get that in there. All right, again, don't be afraid to get on top of that black. That's fine. All right, I'm going to spread that out a little thicker on the black, so that's what I want to do. But what you definitely want to do is make sure you cover all of that white canvas. All right, and bring it all in there. Fill that entire area in with blue for now. All right, I'll bring that blue up into this little white area as well, right underneath his glasses. So paint that area. All right, keep it on the bottom part of that eyeglass though, all right? We don't want to get inside the glass. All right, make sure we cover all that canvas. I see a little white on mine, so I want to go in and make it a little heavier. All right, I'm going to come down here in the bottom, all right? And this is basically, it's really for no rhyme or reason. Again, we're just moving color around. So this area down here, all right, I'm going to put some blue. All right, if I'm not mistaken, I think you'll notice on your canvas, you don't have a lot of that white down there. I think your black goes all the way down bottom. So just ignore mine for now. Pretend that's filled in with black. I'll paint it later. But I want to get some blue up to the edge. So for argument's sake, this is the bottom of your canvas here. All right, we'll put some blue in there. All right, and then I'm going to come up top here and I'm going to put some blue up into this area of his hair as well. All right, we'll dab that in there. All right, covering all that white. All right, I'm going to bring this up to the top. All right, and add a little bit of blue over top that black. That looks pretty cool, so we don't mind doing that. All right, little areas, just dabbing some color on there. All right. I think I want this a little heavier over here, so I'll fatten that area up a tiny bit. Again, smearing color into that black. Okay, All right, so you see it starting to take shape already. All right, all it takes is a little bit of color, and by moving that color around, you really start to get the structure of that face. All right. All right, so we'll take a minute, let that blue dry, let that set up. Okay, so give yourself a minute or two to fix in all your areas, let that blue dry, and then we're gonna start, we'll start on our next color. So let that set for a second. Okay, so now that that's pretty much dry, all right, be little fingers on it to dab it to check that out. All right, we're gonna rinse that blue off of our brush. All right, now the reason I'm really doing that is because my brush is starting to get a little dry. Okay, so I just wanted to loosen those bristles up a bit. All right, so while we're cleaning it off, we might as well just go clean it thoroughly. All right, and then I'm gonna get some red on here. All right, and I'm gonna start up top in the hair. What I wanna do is, now the red's gonna be a strong color, so it's gonna make a pretty good impact. All right, and I wanna get some of this little areas up here in his hair. And I'm not really spending a lot of time or concerning myself with staying in the line, so to speak, because there are none. All right, I just want to get some of that paint and that color in there. All right, so I'm going to dab that in there, just random shapes and patterns. All right, it's kind of heavy. All right, and I want to get that color on top of that black. On top, so you've got the orange up there as well. All right, don't cover your orange. Let's get some red up top there. All right, so you don't have to cover all the orange, but you're going to complement it with some of this red. All right, we'll bring it over to here too. All right, I'll get some of this red on top the black over here in this side of his head as well. All right, just cover up that white, and again, just blotchy shapes. Like we said in the beginning, this is very expressionistic, all right? There's no real rhyme or reason why we're putting red in his hair other than we like it. So, you know, don't get real technical with it. Okay. Let's get some red over here. We're going to use red on the face as our darker, more of a shadow color, a darker color. All right, so those colors will stay closer to the black. All right, so you see what I've done there? I added a little bit there. And again, don't be afraid to get it on the black. It actually, the colors on the black make for a nice little like animated shadow, I like to call it. All right, it brings those shadows to life. So I'll kind of paint some red on top that eyebrow. All right, that looks kind of cool. I like that. All right, let's get a little bit of red underneath here where we've got this pink. Just heavy up that shadow too. He's got a shadow from his eyeglass. All right, so we'll put that there as well. All right, I'm gonna come down here along his jawline. Put some red in here also. Right around the chin. Okay, again, moving color around, right? That's what we're doing. And once it dries, you go back in and hit it again, like you did with your orange. All right, and that'll heavy up the red for you, because sometimes the red over the black doesn't show up very well. So if you want it stronger, that's what you do. Once it's dried, go back and hit that a little heavier. Okay, I'm just going over the areas that I've already made red. I just want to heavy them up. All right. All right, I'm gonna rinse that red off, all right? I'm gonna let that red dry. So let's not touch that for a minute, but we can also continue on if we clean the brush off. with some of the purple. So let's get the purple. Now you'll notice obviously we have a purple and a black. Okay, make sure you get the purple, not the black. All right, and the purple, we're going to start underneath this eye. And again, like I said, I want to try to keep that white line. So I'm going to kind of sketch with that purple, give myself that little rim of white line there. All right, try to keep that as consistent as you can. Okay, and I use the edge of the brush. But now if you want to grab your finer brush, if you feel more comfortable with that, you know, grab one of these finer brushes and use it with that. Okay, just take your time. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this in purple. All of that white. What we'll do is I'll leave this little curl right where we made that yellow. All right, I kind of want to keep that eye. All right, so we'll keep his eye, section of his eye there. I want to keep that white. So I've kind of made an edge there that I'll stop my purple at. And then I'll fill the rest of it in. All right, again, smooth it out. All right, cover all that white. You don't want to see any of the white of the canvas in there. Okay. I'm going to bring that purple down now underneath his chin, on top of some of that orange. I'm going to darken that area up. All right, he's got a nice strong shadow under his chin. Under his lip rather. I want to get that, as well as this area into the chin. Now you'll notice too is when I put the purple against where the black is, all right, purple's a great color because it's a pretty dark color, all right, and I use those words pretty and dark, okay, so I'll use purple a lot of times over top of my black, like you can see what I'm doing here, all right, and you might not see that too well on the video, but you will on your canvas, okay. What happens is purple makes black pretty. Okay, and that's why I like to use this. So use it pretty liberally around there. I mean, there's no reason that you can't smear that purple into the black. And when it dries and you step back from this, you'll really see the effect it has. All right, so the purple is kind of it's a darker color, but we use it as a pretty color. All right, and I'm going to come over here with it on top of that lip as well. And make that lip purple, right on top of the black. And again, you might not notice it at first, but it's there. It looks pretty cool. All right, so we're going to create a shadow over here. So where we did that pink, all right, I'm going to follow right around the edge of that pink line that I made. And I'm not going to cover all of that, all right? I want to leave that little bit of pink in there. All right, so if you see, I've got a little edge of pink. So I came to the left of it a little bit, all right, and that's where I put the purple. The same thing. So I'm going to create this little shape that I've made. All right, and I'll bring that all the way to the edge here, the edge of his jaw. And I'll just creep this up the side of his chin. Now see how I'm doing this? I'm actually letting that paint dissipate off the brush. All right, I didn't add a lot, and I'll just work that paint into the canvas and just let it fade off. All right, and that'll give me that little bit of a blend up the side of his cheek. All right, I just want this area heavier down here and let it fade off. All right, and that gives us that nice little colored shadow over there, and that's what I wanted. All right, a little bit of heavy shadow on that side. Okay, let's go up into this black here as well and get some of that purple. I'm going to push that purple around the edge where the blue met the black. All right, I'll smear some of that purple on there, all right, and that'll feather onto the blue. Right? And you can hear it. You can hear how I'm using the side of that brush just to push the color in there. And what it's doing is it's actually blending that purple into that blue, and it gives me that nice little soft edge there. Right? If you have too much paint on the brush, you're not going to be able to do that. But if it's too much, just wipe it off. And again, work the brush into the canvas, and you'll start to see that effect. All right? I use that a lot in my paintings. It's almost, I kind of like to call it the lazy man's blend. So I don't have to mix colors to blend them together. I'm actually smearing two colors together, and that'll blend itself. So that's kind of a cool way to do that. And again, a little bit of purple in that black just makes it pretty. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just adding some purple in that black area. All right, so we'll let that dry for a second. All right, so we've got let that purple dry, so now all that paint should be dry. All right, one more time, I'm gonna rinse that brush off. All right, if your water's starting to get a little dirty, you know, feel free just to empty it out and get some fresh water in there. Mine is still pretty good, so I'll forge on. All right, let's go to some green. You get that nice, pretty bright color green in here. And we'll start with up here in the hair, okay? Now the green is gonna go on fairly translucent, which is fine, all right, because we know how we can heavy that up. I'm gonna make sure I cover all the white areas, all right, but I'm also gonna go on the black, like same way we did the red and the blue. All right, so let's fill in that white and just let it creep. I'll bring that green a little down a little more, and I want to take it right to the edge of his hair. Okay? All right, smear yourself some green in there like that. All right, let's do this too. Let's get a little green over here on top that eyebrow into the yellow. All right, got a little bit of green there. All right, I'll bring it down here in this white area. Give myself some green there. Okay, center around the eye. I'm going to come underneath the eye and put a little hint of green. Try to keep that white, right, like we did on the other glass. Just smear yourself some green inside there, all right, giving a little shadow next to his eye. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. A little bit of green in the corner. So you've kind of made a nice little pattern there around his eye, inside that eyeglass. All right, helps with the reflection. All right, I want to put some green over here on top of this black. All right, we're moving our color around, right? I'm going to put some down here where we've still got that white next to his, on his neck. All right, remember your canvas ends here, so just bring that right down to the bottom. Okay, let's continue moving some color. Let's get some green up in here. Right up in that area where the blue met the black in the corner next to his nose. Let's throw some green in that. That'll look kind of cool. Okay, put some green right here. Almost continue that bottom lip. All right, just a dab of color. All right, little indications of color, that's all we want. And then what I'll do is I'll go back, like I did the first time, go over it again once it's dry, and that'll make it a little bit darker for me. And I don't need it to be really bright, heavy green, right? I kind of like that watercolory look to it, so we'll just leave that. But if you want, you can go back, keep going back over top, and that green will get greener. All right, good, just go over top, over top what we've done just to heavy it up. Okay. Yeah, see, starting to take shape, right? All right, I'll let that dry. I'm gonna just wipe that brush off for a minute. Okay, what I want to do now is I'm going to jump ahead a bit and I'm going to bring some white out. Usually I save white for last, but in this case I want to start to put it in here because it'll help me start to really make out the shapes of his face. So definitely the glasses, okay? So if you were like me, you've left that rim there, but what I want to do in a couple spots is I want to just make a heavier line, all right, with white. Now I'm still using my heavy brush, I haven't changed yet, I'm using the sharp edge of it, but again, if you feel more comfortable with a finer brush, by all means go ahead and use that. All right, so I'm just gonna complete these circles, all right, with that white. All right, cleaning up those edges there. All right, well, we've got the white out. I'm gonna come and I'm gonna help his eyes out here a bit, get some white on those as well. All right, got a little bit on the eyelid, a little bit on the bottom eyelid. All right, let's put that nice little white dot. Let's make two of them, how about that? All right, in his eye, give him some life. I wanna put a little white highlight underneath his eye as well. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Let's give a little bit of an eyelid here. All right, I'll put a little dot for his eye. A little white underneath it, okay? Keep the eyes looking focused, but the little white dots actually give it a little bit of life. Okay, so that's why we add those. Now, if you notice what I'm doing also is every once in a while I'll step back. Okay, you're standing in front of a canvas. Art isn't meant to be looked at that closely. So it'll help a lot of times if you stop and step back. You can actually see more of the composition that way. So don't be afraid to get up, get a couple feet away from it, and you can start to see where maybe you might need a little more color or you might need to fix a couple things. All right, so it helps to walk away. You don't always have to stand up on top of it. All right, I'm just going to pull that white off the brush now, just dry it out a bit. Okay. And now what I want to do is I'm going to go back, all right? I'm going to go back into my yellow, and I'm going to strengthen some of this stuff up. So I want some more yellow over here in that hair. So I'm going to put some of that there. All right, some yellow up in here as well, make it a little heavier. All I'm doing is making my yellow a little brighter. All right, going over what we have already, maybe a little more down here on that chin. All right, next to his nose. Maybe color in a little more of that white. All right, it's kind of heavy there. All right, I'll come get some yellow underneath that eye as well. Again, just a little more paint, that's all it is. You know, it's not really heavy in structure. Maybe sharpen this up here. I'll get some yellow in the hair as well on this side. All right, there's some yellow on that bottom lip. And while we're at it, let's go a little yellow on the top lip too, up here in this white area. Off the black, we'll get a little bit of yellow there. All right, pretty that up a bit. All right, and again, the yellow over top of any color on here, you know, will pretty up that color. So don't be afraid to use it. You know, especially on top of the black. Like we said, some of the colors on the black are really, really complementary. So I don't know if any of you guys might have seen the video of one of the classes that we've had over the, where was it, over the summer, I believe. This is how we painted the Lennon, and what we did then is I gave everybody the opportunity to say, hey, you know, if you want to put a little color around the outside, you know, some people made it green, all right, some people made it red or orange, and they had a lot of fun with it, which is pretty cool. But in keeping with tradition, if we want to paint like this, now is the time what we've done, and the reason I left that like that is so now you can paint the rest of your canvas black, okay, and that'll actually give you that disappearing edge, okay, on this side. So if you want, what you can do now is, again, this is completely up to you, you could go in and start painting this all black. So anywhere where there's white, paint it black. Leave your blue edge, right, and just follow that around. All right, make sure there's no white. That's one of the tricks. You can't have any white at that point, all right, because you want the blue to literally disappear into the black. You know, and I won't paint the entire thing because I'll take too long, but you'll get the idea. All right, everything around this side the same way. And what's cool about this, again, it's a really, really fun little technique, you know, and there's really no way to screw it up as long as you don't really paint inside with black, which you've painted in color already. All right, and bring the black right up to the edge. And then what you can do is once that black dries, you can go back in with whatever color you had, and you could always strengthen up the color along the edges there. All right, so this entire space here completely disappears. All right, you'd make all of this black. All right, and that's basically what'll give you that area here. All right, you can see the whole side of his face, all right, is a complete shadow. So it almost looks like his face stopped where you finish the color with the blue and the purple, but it hasn't. All right, your eye will complete the rest of it, and again, it makes for a really cool effect because his head is there and you know it's there. But by painting all that black around it, you give this really like almost mysterious look to it. All right, so you get the idea. So I'll leave that to you to continue in black. But what I want to do with the black inside the face is just go back and crisp up some of these lines. All right, some of these areas I do want to have pure black. You know, especially around the eyes. If you've got a little bit too much paint around that, all right, use the black to clean it up. All right, clean up that eyeglass. You want that circle to be nice and round. All right, so you can keep working that with the black and the white to get that effect. All right, especially like the jaw. I want to keep that line there in black, so I'll go back and I'll heavy that up there. Chin is the same way. And give yourself a nice hard edge. All right, and a real good way to do this is to step back. Step back a couple feet, all right, and you'll notice the areas that look a little too soft, and what you'll do is just bring back the black. You know, so what I mean when I say that is I gave you the black on the canvas to begin with, so just go back and sharpen it up. You know, go those edges where we overshot it with color, and everybody's will be a little bit different. But go back and actually paint those areas black again. You know, and the fun thing about this portrait here, obviously it's John Lennon, all right? You can't go wrong with John Lennon. But again, with the difference is some people are going to do the black like I'm doing here, and some will actually paint the color around it. And the fun thing is when you guys post all these pictures later, which I hope you do, onto our Facebook group, you can all see how everybody's looks like John Lennon, but there's something slightly different about it. All right, and that's what really makes it special. So you've actually created your own portrait of Lennon, even if you followed me religiously. Okay, it's never going to be exact. My painting still doesn't look exactly like this. Every time you paint it, there's going to be something different about it. As long as you keep the structure of the face, all right, and you keep in mind the lights and the darks. Those are the areas that you really want to concentrate on. Everything else in the middle you can have some fun with and take liberty with, because that won't alter Lennon's face. Okay, so we all know that John Lennon doesn't have blue hair or green hair, but it looks cool and there's nothing wrong with it. It still looks like John Lennon. Right? So take your time, finish in the rest of it. Okay, if by chance anybody needs more paint, there's more paint available on our website you can purchase. The Alpha 6 paints are all there, all the colors we use. Everything's there, and I hope you enjoyed it. And please post the pictures because we'd love to see them, all right? And take care. I hope to see you next time.